Here's Johnny.
Sorry. Flawless Jack Nicholson impersonation. Oh God!
Pitch it to Johnny. I'm Johnny.
Deep cut from Little Giants. This is how this video should start off. The Shining is honestly it's definite top 5 horror movie for me.
Oh, see, to me, this isn't even. I told you this yesterday.
I know.
I mean, when we were discussing about watching this before
Dr. Sleep,
I said, when we watch this, I'm just going to go ahead and buy it. To me, this is the horror. Like this is the pinnacle of this genre.
Like you think anyone that's making horror films should strive to make something like The Shining.
It's so well made.
Well, it's Kubrick. I mean, that's like.
Well, no, but like his other stuff, it's meticulous, and you can tell it is.
No, and The Shining's that way too.
And there are a lot of things we could discuss about this movie, and I think we may touch on some things, but we're gonna come nowhere close to diving into.
I was gonna say, this is a movie you could go frame by frame and go, why was that there? And it's because Stanley Kubrick's reputation of being, like you said, so meticulous that everything had to be perfectly placed and everything had to be done a certain way that when you watch it, it's like, why did they decide to do that? Like, I mean, just a small instance, there's the part where...
It's obvious, Sean. He filmed the moon landing.
Of course, he filmed the moon landing, according to that documentary, Room 237, which, while by the way, it's a bonkers documentary. It is entertaining. No, but there's several shots. Like for instance, the moment where Wendy comes to check on him, Jack, and he's typing on the typewriter.
This is earlier on.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell there's some strange things going on, but in the background behind him, there's a chair. And then it cuts back to Wendy, and she's talking, and then it cuts back to Jack, and in the background, the chair's gone.
Yeah.
Now, any other time, you sit there and go, it's just a continuity error. They just forgot about it. But I'm like, Kubrick, there were never errors like that with Kubrick. No, so that had to be...
hundreds of hours of film.
I mean, just hundreds of takes. I wouldn't say hours. And so you look at that, and you're like, is he doing that? Is it... I think it's subliminal type messaging where it is messing with people's minds.
We talked about this last night and how the layout of the hotel is so confusing the way it's shot. Mm-hmm. And you can never tell where anything is. But it's, in my opinion, it's done on purpose. It's to give the viewer that uneasy feeling of feeling like a maze.
Right. Like think about it. Think about it when Wendy... at the end, is going through the whole hotel. Why she didn't go outside? She knows Danny's outside. She needs to just go outside. But she's going throughout the whole hotel.
But without her going through the whole hotel, we wouldn't have gotten the guy getting fellatio from a guy in a
mask. No, not just in a mask. A guy in an assless bear suit.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget talking. There was a girl I was talking to about it, and
but there's no hole in the bear.
It doesn't make it like you sit there. You're like, what is this? What is this?
Is the guy he's doing it to? Is his pants even off?
No, they were around his ankles, and they looked at her with a look of almost like, excuse me, can you give us some privacy? Doors wide open. But those hallways are like purplish blue, right? And then she's going through the hallway and it's like deep red. Those are two hallways that you haven't seen the whole movie.
Or the stairs she's going up.
You haven't seen in the whole movie, and it's like, it's crazy that they spend...
And I still haven't gotten quite a good layout of how the kitchen's laid out, because he hides in the kitchen at one point, but he hides in a place in the kitchen and you're like you've only seen it once before, right. But then it leads into a hallway.
And see, this is why I think this movie is it's masterfully made, because it does give the viewer that feeling of you don't know. Usually movies like this, they try and give you up front a layout of the space that these actors, especially in a situation like this where it's all in one location, to give you the space of where these actors and actresses are going to be playing in, acting in. And
something we talked about actually in the lighthouse. They did a really good job of showing
immediately showing what everything looks like. Yeah. So, in The Shining, They do that. They set it up, and especially and it's purposely done with Danny riding around on his tricycle, going around showing what the whole hotel looks like. But as the movie goes on, you realize, like, there's so much that you don't know about, and it's like, they didn't do a good job of laying out the hotel, where it's like, no, that was done purposefully.
Yeah.
It was done so that the viewer is slowly going insane with the characters within the movie. And by the end, you're just like, it's like a horror show. I mean, it's a horror movie, but it is like, it's a nightmarish, like, dreamscape, and like nothing feels real, you know, like it's an absolutely insane bonkers movie in the best way possible.
Yeah, like you can tell it's purposefully done to make you uneasy. It's not bonkers like.
See, this brings up a question that I want to ask: is if any other director does this, I mean, maybe not any other director, but if someone that was just known for doing horror movies made this, would this be as well regarded? I think because Kubrick is the way he is.
Well, yeah, I mean, he had that reputation going into the movie. He had that reputation on every movie he ever made.
So it's like, why?
He was like strived for perfection for every scene.
So
he
it's
did,
like
you said, hundreds of takes. Everything, when you watch one of his movies, you can sit there and go, everything was done on purpose.
Right.
There's reason behind everything. And so, that's the reason this movie's picked apart as much as it is. And it's what, I don't think there's really any reason to pick it apart. I think everything is done to give you that feeling of like, what is happening?
I like it on that level too, but I do like picking it apart. I like looking at things and thinking, what was the purpose of doing it?
Picking it apart and going, well, this is obvious. It's the moon landing, or
not like that documentary. That documentary is crazy. The one guy that's like, oh, this is obviously about the American Indian genocide, and I'm like, what? Where? And they give all these crazy examples that seem far-fetched, but I guess if you look at the movie in that scope,
and it's like, if you go into this movie in that state of mind, looking for this and trying to justify everything in that state of mind, then maybe.
I mean, it's
the boy had on a NASA suit. My theory is
he has the Apollo. No, it's not a suit. It's the Apollo rocket on his sweater, and then in the pantry,
he's also wearing a Bugs Bunny basketball.
Yeah, Kubrick had the idea for Space Jam. It's clear. That was the theory you posited last night.
That's my 2 cents. This is the prequel to Space Jam.
The prequel?
Yep.
So, all right. I mean, we can dive into this, but I feel like that would just be a whole nother video.
Anyway, this.
So, what would be? The acting in this movie is also strange when you think about it. Like, the kid's really good for a kid actor. I would argue.
I thought the kid.
He's great.
Yeah.
Like, for what he was asked to do, he was really good.
To me, his was the most realistic portrayal.
Right.
Of what how I feel a human would react. Shelley Duvall gets hysterical.
But I think part of that, we've talked about that's a thing that's behind the scenes that apparently Kubrick like tormented her. But she didn't really act much after this movie. She was like becoming an A-list star and then just like stopped.
Yeah. Well, my point is he obviously wanted her that way.
Right. No, I understand.
I'm saying, but that's my point. Is her character was like hysterical. Jack Nicholson's character, like, he went crazy, like, slowly, but at the same time, it's Jack. You're like,
he's already crazy.
Yeah.
You see, that's also.
I mean, it's early on when you see him just staring at the window as they go into the thing.
Well, I mean, at that point, they had already been at the hotel a month.
Yeah.
So, like, I think that's showing that, quote unquote, cabin fever has already crept into him. You know, he's already slowly going insane. And I guess it's just because, they kind of make it seem like he, or maybe the spirit kind of within him, has always been a part of this hotel. So maybe he's becoming like one with the hotel again,
Yeah.
And that part's so strange.
I always kind of took it that way because he always said from the beginning, he was like, I came here, I just felt at home.
Yeah, he was like,
I was meant to be. It
feels right. And then, of course, there's the whole. See, like, this is another thing where you're like, what? Obviously, this has to be a hallucination for Jack, but is it type thing where he's at the bar? Mm-hmm. It's an empty ballroom, no bar, no liquor or anything, and then he starts, hey, Lloyd, and it's just a bartender from what seems to be like the 20s or 30s, mm-hmm. and they're just having a conversation like they've known each other, you know, and then he goes back and there's the party going on, you know, it's all this like just strange things that are happening. So of course you sit there and go, oh, he's hallucinating. This is him really going into just like the depths of insanity. Mm-hmm. But it's like, well, was it? Like, is this something that he also had experience in the past, like as a caretaker of the past? You know, like it's awesome.
Yeah,
you know, like
on top of all that, we're not even talking about the Shining aspect.
Oh yeah,
like, which I mean, the boy being able to see the flashes of what actually happened, mm-hmm. like kind of what happened there, and then also flashes of what they're going to see.
But Jack. See, and this is where, I mean, does Jack have it as well, or is it just Jack's gone insane? See, I've always took it Jack was insane, Danny...
So it's a genetic thing?
No, I don't know. The Shining is...
Well, he hints at what's his name, the cook, hints at the fact that him and his mom would communicate that way.
See, that's where I'm thinking, like, maybe... Because Shelley Duvall seems confused and hysterical, like you said, constantly. You know? Mm-hmm. But the kid is seeing the twins... The kid's seeing the dead twins. The kid is...
He was in room 237, which
with
apparently...
With the woman.
Which, another crazy aspect to this is, up until that point, it's all visions. And you never actually see the woman touch the kid.
Yes.
And he's been physically harmed.
Yeah, that's right.
And his clothes have been ripped, and he's got the bruises on his neck.
So are you to believe that...
They can interact.
Can you interact with...
The hotel?
I guess. Or did... Yeah, I mean, it had to be, because the kid would have been...
By the way, I've seen this movie like 10 times.
Right.
And
but this is why it's fun to talk about.
You can never definitively answer.
And it's done that way on purpose. It's done, and that's why I think Kubrick did it. He did it this way.
And every time you see it, it's not like a horror movie in the sense that there's jump scares and stuff. But every time you see it, no matter how many times you've seen it, it's creepy.
No, the whole movie's creepy, but it's the type of slow burn type of movie that I like, where you're slowly going insane mm-hmm. with the characters in the story, and by the end you were like, I want to get out of here.
Yeah.
And not in a bad way. Like, you want to see it through because I'm just transfixed by it.
You're like, it's time to go.
Yeah. We gotta go.
And then when he axes the guy in the chest, you're like, no!
Yeah. Well, it's because usually in a movie like this, there is usually someone that comes and is helping out, but it's sometimes that character dies. The only thing he did to help out was die and leave his snowplow there. Mm-hmm. Besides that was it. I mean, he had the Shining, so he was
communicating with the boy. He was kind of seeing what the boy was seeing.
Yeah, he knew something was wrong.
Yeah,
and that's where like that whole sequence is nuts. And then on top of that, the ending sequence is where the music starts to get really fucking creepy. I mean, this, there's so much about this movie that I could just talk about and rave about. Because on top of, the actors are pretty, it's crazy to think that maybe the worst part of the movie is the acting. But it's still pretty good acting for what the movie is. Because Jack is crazy. Shelley Duvall is supposed to be hysterical. And then it helps that it's not like a wide cast. It's just those three people.
And it's crazy. We talked about this last time we were watching it too. How, like, when I think of this movie, I think of the center focus and the wide shots.
But that's what Kubrick did.
It was, while the movie was so contained and actually, if you grand scheme of things, small, it feels like
bigger.
Yeah.
But they're in one location.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you obviously give this A plus.
I'm not going to give this an A plus because it's not. I'm not going to put that. I mean, it's tough because, in my opinion, this is the best in the category. It's the pinnacle.
You know me. I put The Exorcist for me as like perfect.
The Exorcist. There's only a handful. There's like, in my opinion, there's like 4 that can even compare to this in terms of this genre, and 2 of them we've seen recently. That we reviewed recently, and I put Hereditary and The Witch up there.
Which is nuts because those are like 2. It's so recent, and they're 2 new directors, and it's just like, what are they gonna do?
Yeah, and but
they are. They're excellent.
The Shining's 1, Exorcist 2, and then there's a little bit of a drop, and then I have those. But to me, this is genre defining. I have to give it an A plus.
Okay,
I have to.
See, I give this an A. I think
I watch this movie and I go, I wish big time directors nowadays, like this would be the equivalent of like Paul Thomas Anderson making a horror movie with like Leonardo DiCaprio, both at the top of their game, and like
it's just doing that.
Yeah.
And see that I think that's always been kind of the appeal.
I mean, I guess Scorsese made Shutter Island. That's more of a thriller to me. That was never
that's fair. I mean, but see, Shutter
it's got its horror moments.
Shutter Island for me was more of it was a little more like Hitchcockian. You know,
a little bit.
It was there were parts that were scary, but I wish we discussed this last night. I wish someone like a Paul Thomas Anderson or God hell, even like someone that usually doesn't even touch this type of genre, just do a horror film.
Like, I know we talked about Spielberg, and technically he kind of did Poltergeist.
Well, no, they basically confirmed that he did.
Well, that's my point. You know,
wait, I was about to say like Aronofsky. I think Aronofsky can make a dope horror movie, but then he made Mother, and Mother's not quite a horror film. And you haven't seen Mother, have you?
No.
It's something else. You do need to.
I like a lot of Aronofsky stuff. I mean, you could argue Black Swan's a horror film.
See, that's like a psychological thriller. There is some horror elements to it for sure. But I wish. The reason I say Paul Thomas Anderson is because he reminds me the most of a Kubrick. He's like if Kubrick and Robert Altman kind of joined together.
I almost like, to me, Paul Thomas Anderson, like Christopher Nolan.
But see, Nolan's gotten to the point that everything is so big that I horror films it would be difficult to make.
But think about.
I know what you just said about Kubrick.
Like at this point he had done 2001: Space Odyssey, which was huge.
He did
A Clockwork Orange,
and he did Barry Lyndon, and he did Doctor Strangelove. So
didn't he do Lolita?
He did do Lolita, but that was before Strangelove and Lolita were before 2001: A Space Odyssey, because he actually was releasing movies every couple years, and then once Space Odyssey came, it was every 4 to 5, and then it went to like 10 years.
Yeah.
Because because it was 75 was Lyndon, 80 was Shining, 86 was Full Metal Jacket, and then 99 was Eyes Wide Shut. You should see Eyes Wide Shut as well. That's a trip. That's awesome. It's another amazing film. Kubrick, and that's the appeal of Kubrick. Kubrick was the definition of a director that was like, I'm gonna fucking do it my own way.
See, I've seen Lolita, I've seen Doctor Strangelove, I've seen A Clockwork Orange, and I've seen this one, but I haven't seen Full Metal Jacket, and I haven't seen...
What?
Yeah.
Oh, Kyle!
I've seen... Well, no, I take that back. I've seen parts of Full Metal Jacket. I've never seen the whole thing, and I haven't seen...
You haven't seen...
I haven't seen Eyes Wide Shut.
I would recommend Eyes Wide Shut. Full Metal Jacket has like iconic moments for sure, and it is a really well-made movie and good movie, but Eyes Wide Shut, I think, is something that people do not talk about enough when they think of Kubrick.
Yeah.
It's something that I first time I watched it, I was like, why is this not among his best? I mean, it's everything that's kind of everything you love about The Shining. That's kind of like it is so well made and everything's meticulous, but everything is kind of surrounded by mystery, and it's this. I don't have
was
to get
he killed because of that maybe? We could go down that route.
That's a conspiracy theory as well. But no, Kubrick, for instance, talking about doing things his own way. Stephen King is notorious for hating The Shining.
Oh yeah,
hates it, and I've read and I've talked to people, and they believe that Kubrick kind of did it not on purpose, but it was like he had an idea for his version of The Shining, and Stephen King didn't want that or like that, and Kubrick's like, I don't care. Like, I don't care what the author of this famous book thinks. Yeah. This is how I'm going to make my movie.
Yeah.
Which is, I think that's awesome. I think that's an artist.
It was just adaptation.
Yeah, it's like, no, this is my version of the story, and
that's why it's called Stanley Kubrick's
exactly.
The Shining.
It's not Stephen King's The Shining; it's Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Yeah.
God. I give this an A. You give this an A plus.
I'm interested to see Dr. Sleep, because from what I had read, is what Stephen King has said so far. He felt like this does a good job of this. Dr. Sleep does a good job of kind of being an adaptation of his version of Dr. Sleep, but also tying
the movie,
The Shining, with the book The Shining. Like, it kind of ties up some loose ends that Stephen King thought there were in this movie that were kind of left out, that he felt like
were pivotal to be included.
Yeah. So
see, and I'm also interested because The Shining is clouded in so much mystery. Like, what does this actually mean? What was their motivation behind doing this? It does make me wonder if Dr. Sleep will answer those questions, and more importantly, I wonder if it's gonna taint Dr. Sleep for me, because I don't sometimes it's like I don't want those things answered. You know, like I kind of love that it is so mysterious.
Yeah. Like, and I feel the same way. I'm wondering if I really hope I don't see Dr. Sleep and then immediately go, yeah, I wish I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to go into the movie.
And I may go see it and go, I'm just going to pretend like I didn't see that. And it may be good. Early word is that it's a pretty decent. It's solid.
It's solid, yeah.
And I mean, there's no way it's better.
There was no fucking way. Even though this movie was not super well received when it first came out. And I think it's because it was kind of so crazy.
Yeah.
Bailey,
what are you doing?
It's been enough talk of The Shining. I need treats.
Yeah.
All right. We watched The Shining on 4K Blu-ray. It's not on any streaming network that I know. It pops on Netflix off and on every once in a while. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Like, it's something that I've heard some people hate it. I've heard some people love it like we do. And I think some people hate it because it is just so kind of crazy and so kind of weird. But I think it's something that's worth seeing. Because of what we're doing right here, which is just talking about it.
Yeah.
So. But that's
our take.
That's our take on The Shining. I thought you were about to say something else.
No.
We will be reviewing Dr. Sleep, or we will be seeing Dr. Sleep tomorrow evening.
Yeah. And hopefully have something up later this week.
Yep. So just catch us next time with Our Take.